Guys, so today I'm just going to review some of the things that we went over in class on how to turn a set of fonts in Illustrator into actual fonts that you can use on your computer. We will be using Glyphr Studio, and so let's get started. So I'm going to Illustrator here, so you can see these are the fonts that I will be using today. You can see that if I go into the view outline, that these fonts are complete. There's no breaks or no problems on the interior. So what is a stroke is clear, and what's the inside and what's the outside is clear. So this is important. First step is to make sure you have a good, clean outline for your font, right? Nothing that shouldn't have anything that crosses over or single lines. They need to be interior and exterior shapes, and if you have counters as well. Okay, I'm going to go back to GPU preview here. The first thing you need to do is we're going to be taking each one of these shapes and copying and pasting them into Glyphr Studio as SVG files. So in order for us to copy and paste SVG, we need to go to Illustrator Settings under Clipboard Handling, and we need to include when we copy the SVG code. So make sure this is checked. Mine is checked, so it works. Okay. Let's get started setting our fonts up, because we don't want to bring them in as arbitrary size. We want to have everything set up ahead of time so that when we paste it into Glyphr Studio, it pastes in the right size. And so to do that, let's go to the Artboard tool here. By the way, if you're not seeing the toolbar the way I have it, again, to go to Windows Workspace and go to Essentials Classic or Reset the Essential Classic, and it'll show you everything in the way I have it here for Illustrator. Okay, we're going to go to the Artboard tool, and we'll just create a new artboard. I can just hit the plus button on the right side of that. And what we're going to do is make it 1000 pixels high. Now, if you are set to inches, by the way, you can change your settings just by right-clicking on the ruler. If you don't see the ruler, Command R will get you the ruler. Right-click on the ruler and go from inches to pixels. We're going to need to work in pixels today. Because Glyphr Studio works in points, which are similar to pixels, and so everything needs to be pixels. All right, in the Artboard tool, we can now go to the height here, and we can make this 1000. Just hit the 1000 and hit return, and now we know that our height for this artboard is 1000 pixels. If you want, Command minus a couple times and zoom out. We're going to need a little bit more room, because we're going to increase the size of these fonts so that they fit according to what we need here. So I'll just expand this a little bit more. All right, go back to your selection tool. The next thing we need to do is what we're going to use as the X height for our font is 500 pixels. So let's set up a 500 pixel grid. So we're going to do that by starting with a rectangle tool, clicking, and just typing in 500 and 500 pixels to make a square. And that square is going to help us with our guides. So we're going to go back to the selection tool, put this right in the middle of the artboard, and then what we're going to do is drag guides down to that selected rectangle. And that'll snap, and that's 500 height, right? This will be our baseline. This is the height, X height of our letter. Okay, I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to delete it. Be careful not to delete the guides. If the guides are locked, that's great, but if they're not, you might want to lock them under guides, and then lock guides right here. And if they're locked and you want to unlock them or clear them because you have other ones, you can clear the guides and lock them and unlock them. So at this point, this is 500 pixels. So what I'm going to do is select maybe this row. I'm going to Option Drag so that I have, oops, let's try that again. Option Drag, so I have a copy. And I'm going to hold the Shift key down and scale these so that the X height for the letters is 500. So what I'm looking to do is to get the bottom of the G here, or the H, and the top of that G to be inside the lines almost perfectly. And that's pretty good. You can see that top of the G here, bottom of the G. So this is the X height for my letter. That's great. Let me zoom out a little bit. You can see there's some issues with overlap, but I can always fix that later, or I can get rid of these things or move them somewhere. The main thing is we wanted the height. right? Now we're going to need a couple more numbers. We're going to need to know how far it is from the bottom here to the top, the ascender. So one way we can get that number is to go to this rectangle tool again and just create a rectangle that starts on the baseline and goes all the way to the tippy top of like any of the ascending elements. And that height of that rectangle, which we have right here, is 794, right? So I'm going to write that down on my sheet of paper. The ascender is 794-ish, right? The same with the descender. If we go from our baseline here and we go all the way down to the bottom of a descender of a lower element, right? It's about almost 300. So I'm just going to call it 300. And again, that's below the baseline. So I'm going to type negative 300 on my sheet of paper. Okay. So now I have this and I can get rid of those things. So I have some numbers, 794, negative 300, and 500 for the X height. All right, because we're going to need that. Finally, before we start, you're going to have to make anything that has like a counter, like a hole inside of it, like this G or this D or this B. You're going to have to make those compound shapes. And so the way you do that is you go to Object, you select the object, Compound Path, and then you make the compound path. Now, since you're going to do this a lot, Command 8 will be the keyboard shortcut. So if you do that, nothing appears to have changed, but it turned this into a compound path. So when you copy and paste it, it'll be a compound. So you'll do that, Command 8, to all the letters that have holes. The letter like the letter I will also need it because it has an appendage or the letter J if it's a small letter J, because it has an appendage that's not connected. So Command 8, and then finally for the letter A, Command 8. You can see that it made it into a compound shape. Okay, now we're pretty much done here in Illustrator. You can save this because we'll be needing it. And obviously you'll do this with all the letters so that you'll have everything copyable for Glyphr Studio. Now we're going to go to the Glyphr Studio area. I'm going to start by calling this font Leaf. I'll just take off the cap locks, L-E-A-F, right? And then we're going to create a new font from scratch. Now, you'll start off and you see all the letters of the alphabet. For our font, we've only made the letters A, you can see from here, and we're using lowercase. And you notice that it has the glyph, it's called 0x61. Do you see that here? Right? So this is 0x61. And if I go all the way to the letter Z, that glyph is called 0x7A, 7A as an alpha. Right? So those are the two numbers we're going to need because we're going to throw away all these other things so that our font only has those letters. So to start with, we click on the overview, we go to settings. The project called Leaf has these characters, but these characters are too many, so we're going to edit those. And we're going to go from 61, like we talked about, to 7 as in 7A is an alpha. So these should be the numbers we use if you only have the lowercase letters A through Z. If you have more, obviously you would need more, or you just leave it the way it is. Okay, so just to prove that that's the case, now if we go back to the overview, you see there's only the letters A through Z. So you're good to go. Under Settings Font, this is where we need those numbers that we wrote down. For the units per M, we're going to start with 1,000. The ascender was 794. Descender was negative 300. The cap height is usually the same as the ascender, but it could be different, but that's up to you. Depends on how your font is. I'm just going to call it 794. And then finally, my X height is 500. Okay. Finally, under the app section here, the main important thing is our side bearings, left and right, which means our spacing between letters. We're going to make it 25 pixels. We can change that later on if we feel they need to be closer or further apart. But this will get us started. Let's go back to overview. We are now ready to start populating our letters. So I'm going to click on the A to get started. You'll notice that I'm just greeted with this screen, which gives me no information. So one way to get some information is go from attributes to guides. And then what we're going to do is turn on our X height, our cap height, our descending, and our ascending. Now you might not need the cap height because that might be the same. If these are the same, you don't need to show them, but you can see 500 for the X height, negative 300, make sure it's negative, and this is above. If we show our labels, you'll see the actual labels, and I'm going to turn the transparency down so you can actually see this is the baseline, our X height, ascenders, and then our descenders. Now we have something that looks like something that we're accustomed to seeing. All right, let's go back from guides to attributes. And what we're going to do is I'm going to Command Tab into Illustrator, go to my letter A, select it, Command C to copy it, and then Command Tab to tab over to this object in Mac, to this area. And I'm just going to Command V to paste it, and then this paste comes up and I'm going to select it. And now the A pastes where the baseline is. Notice the X height is 500 and it is 500 high, and you'll notice the 25 here and the 25 here. So this letter is good to go because we don't have to do anything. Click on the letter B, and again, I'm Command Tab, select the letter B. I've already made this a compound path, right? So Command C to copy it, Command V to paste it here, select paste. Looks like it's on the baseline. It looks like it's showing up well. So I'm going to move on to the letter C. And what you're going to be doing, obviously, is just repeating this over and over again. And you can see this one looks good. So, and you're going to just continue this copying and pasting, being careful. Don't select the guide. Don't select things that are absolutely wrong. We're going to continue this until we get to the letter, and I'm just going to jump really quickly here to the letter, let's see, something with a descender, the letter P. The letter G. So that has a descender. So I'm going to switch over to the letter G here. So on the letter G, this is going to be a little different. Again, I'm going to copy the letter G, Command C, and Command V, and paste it. What happens? Well, you can see the X height is here, and the G went all the way up to the ascending height. We need to lower this, right? Because currently it just pasted it in at the baseline, and we have to lower it by 300, right? So what we're going to do is I'm just going to physically move it down. If I hold the Shift key down, it kind of keeps everything, it snaps everything together. So it's pretty okay. And you'll notice that now it's pretty much at the 500, right there. Now the important thing is when I lowered it, I slightly changed our bearings left and right. That should be 25. So I'm just going to put it back to 25 like that. And now the letter G is ready. Okay, so anything that has a descender like J, G, whatever, if you have those, you're going to physically have to paste those in and then physically move them down to that baseline or the descender area. And again, you can be a little more accurate right here by just typing 500. That's perfect. And then changing these bearings back to 25 and 25. So continue through. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up really quickly. And then I will fast forward this part, and then I'll show you the next part of the tutorial. Okay, so we're back, and you can see that I've pasted in every letter. By the way, I noticed I had a trouble on the Y and the Z when I copied it from the artboard here, and that was because they had gone off of the entire board here. So be careful, don't let anything get off of the, I'm just zooming out here, don't let anything get off of this main artboard or it won't copy and paste. So all I did to bring those in was just to move them into this area, and they copied and pasted just fine. All right, so if you go overview, you see all the letters, everything looks good so far. So let's see how everything turns out. So what we're going to do is go to live preview, and we're just going to be able to then type, they have a pangram here that allows us to see how everything looks visibly. And you can see that the L and the Y could be closer together, right? And you're going to have to do that for much of the numbers here, like the letter F and I should be closer. So that's called is kerning, and what you'll need to do is go in and just try how things look. Now, you want to do The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So this is another pangram. And I'm looking for spacing issues. Obviously the F, to the right of the F, it looks like there's a lot of letters that could be like wrapped inside, because this feels a little bit of like it's a distance. And the same with the Y and the L should be a little bit together. I'm looking for other pairs, but let's start with the F and almost every letter. So let's say we're going to create a kerning pair. How would we do that? So I'm going to go to kerning here. Just remember how this F looks here. I'm going to go to kerning. I'm going to create a new kerning pair. Now on the left will be the letter F, and on the right will be every other letter: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Every other letter but anything that goes higher, because that won't work. So the H, I go away. The L should not go there. The K might not go there. The J goes there. The T is small in this case. Let's see. Everything else, maybe the K should not go there. Okay. Let's create a kerning group, and you see that the letter F, there are a couple of letters here that go above, but for the most part, what you're going to do is you're going to scooch these in a certain number, right? Now, if there are some kerning groups that we don't want, we want to remove those. I think you could just do that here. Let's see, Q is not one of them, but on my font set, I think it was D and B. For sure. Let's try that. Save changes. Yep. See, now all those are gone. So all of these are going to kern more correctly. Like they're going to get closer to that F. So to take a look at how that looks, we can go back to our live preview, and you'll notice how this looks much nicer, right? Now we do have special kerns like L and Y, so we're going to fix that. So again, we're going to go back to the kerning, and we're going to create a new kerning group. And we know that the L should be here, and then on the right side of the L should be the Y. And I'm just going to create its own little kerning group so that these two letters always look like this. Now, if I have any other letter that looks like it could go like that, I would add that into this group by just going to the edit here and adding the letter in here. So if we go back now to our live preview, you'll notice how nice this looks right here. And again, this is all based on just your overall aesthetics as far as like how you feel these letters should go together. Now, if the spacing for whatever reason between the two lines feel a little tight or a little loose, again, all those things are things that we set up originally under the settings, right, under the font area. So the font area. So if you want the heights to be a little different, you can actually change the descending heights and the ascending heights a little bit so that they overlap. But the main thing is we do not want the objects to hit each other when there's a tall letter like an F and a long letter that descends like a Q. So that's why we've got our line gap set to 12. If you set that to something different, it'll set that differently for the font itself, right? So you can set it to 1, and you can see everything is a lot tighter, but this is going to touch, like if I go and hit a bunch of spaces, you see how close that gets to the G here, right? So anyway, so create a bunch of letters. Now notice that if you create any punctuation marks, it's not going to show up because we took all those out. So there's no more to do. Now, you should be, while you're working, going to File, Save Project, because this will give you a little file that if anything does go wrong, you can always use this to load in that project again. There's no saving on the Glyphr Studio directly. It just gives you the file, and you have that file, and you can open this back up and start where you left off. Okay, so we're back to our overview. We are all done. We would like to export this as a finished file. So we go to File, and we're going to export the OTF file. So let's do that. It's complete. So if I go here and view it, don't forget to save the Glyphr Studio project too if you need to make any mistakes or you'll have to start over. But you'll see if I have my OTF file and double click it on the Mac, it'll ask me if I want to install this font. And I can just hit install, and it's called Leaf because that's what we named the font family, Leaf, right? I'm going to hit install, and now it has installed. So if I go and search for Leaf, it is right here. So let's test it, make sure everything is working okay. So let's go to text editing program, and I'm going to go and open up the font, Command T, and I'm going to change the font to Leaf. It should be under L. There it is, right? And I'm going to select 2018, whatever. Let's just make it 38 or whatever. And then I'm going to start to test it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now that I'm looking at it, I can always go back, and maybe this K needs a little bit more room on right or left, right? This little letter I might need a little bit more room between its left side and the right side. Everything feels a little tight, so maybe I would change in this program here, maybe I would change the side bearings to be a little bit farther apart. And I would also go into the live preview and just, type an alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And you can kind of see the letter I needs its own special kerning, and maybe it also needs to be kerned with the letter J needs to kern with the other letters that don't have descenders. The J needs to kind of scooch to the left. We didn't see that here because of the letter starting with the letter here, but J needs the same type of work that the letter L needed with the letter Y. These are all going to be things that you're going to play with until you have your font perfect, and then you can re-export them, install them, and then just share them with people that you know, and that's how it works. So hopefully you found this interesting and useful. I did a video on Glyphr Studio 1, and I think they've made some good improvements on Glyphr Studio 2. But again, I wish they had some better tutorials, visual tutorials that talked a little bit more about all the different features they have, because there are a lot of different possibilities here. It's getting fairly good, but unless you're a typographer, you might not be able to just really quickly make a font, and hopefully this helps. Okay, thanks.